I just don't know where the album's going, to be honest.
I don't think it has a direction. You know, but the pink tape is here to stay. Don't get it twisted. He said it himself. It's here to stay. That was one of the moments from our live album reaction to Lil Uzi Vert's new album, The Pink Tape. If you guys want to check out the whole experience that we had listening to it for the first time, the link's available in our description and the pinned comment. But let's talk about this album. And by the way, guys, this is not our official review. That's going to be coming a bit later. But after first listen, there was a lot of high expectations after a 3-year wait for a new Uzi album. And if I had to describe in one word how I'm left feeling, disillusioned. I can't believe it.
Disillusioned. Yeah, I'm the same vibe. I'm disappointed. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mean, I knew what was going to happen when it was announced that it was 26 tracks. And then you get the runtime today and you realize that this album runs you an hour and 27 minutes. And listen, I will talk about certain songs that I feel like I could take out of this album. I'm not saying that there's all bad on this. I don't think that's the case. But if you have to judge this as an album experience and going through it and enjoying it, no, I'm sorry. It just wasn't for me. And from the start, I mean, we were on a positive track. You start off the track list with something like Flooded the Face. I love the energy from Uzi. It sounded like this new sound that he was bringing to the table for the Pink Tape. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? This could be possibly good. Then you get something like Suicide Doors, and I'm maybe not the biggest fan of that type of aesthetic, but I'm like, okay, maybe we could play this in certain settings. This sounded good. His vocals were clear. You get A with Travis Scott. You're like, okay, this is actually progressing nicely. It's just that it's way too bloated. This album is all bloat, and you're going to go through it. And for what? Grab 5 songs out of 25?
That's
26?
What's crazy is that, like, as we were going through the reaction, I feel like my experience, or our experience, I should say, was sort of like listening to a bunch of weak tracks, hoping for that one banger, and you were lucky if you were going to find one after like a 6 or 7 track run. And I'm just absolutely stunned because, in my opinion, Lil Uzi Vert is one of the most talented artists that we've seen in the trap genre, one of the most influential in the SoundCloud scene, and you expect quality every time that he drops. Even an album like Eternal Atake, even though it wasn't my favorite after first listen, ended up growing on me, and I don't know if that's going to happen with this project. I will say this, though. What's interesting about this album is the fact that it's his most varied album in terms of him trying out so many different stylistic approaches, in terms of him tackling that rage aesthetic that's very Whole Lotta Red and Cardi inspired. Then you had him going over some more metal and punk rock type of tracks. Then you also had him bringing back the 2016, 2017 Uzi flavors that we know and love from him. But after seeing poor attempt after poor attempt and lifeless performances, I'm ultimately convinced that this is really the mark of Uzi's decline, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and again, this is after one listen, though, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I think it's way too soon to say it's
It
the
is,
mark of his
but
decline, or
it's-
come on, it's way too soon.
that's how I'm feeling, though.
It's way too soon to be calling stuff like that. To say that there was lifeless performances, I don't personally think so. I do feel like a lot of performance did have that high voltage energy.
The best song on here is the single, which was just
yeah,
Wanna
but
Rock.
we're not talking about quality. We're talking about the effort that he put into certain tracks. And while I do agree there was a lot of different things that should have been curated proper, in my opinion, that wasn't the problem for me, because you did get high voltage energy tracks throughout the entire track list. The problem was they weren't executed properly. Not only that, but he was trying this new groan out that just sounded absolutely horrendous throughout the track list. It's really not my cup of tea. Maybe it's for you guys, but I didn't enjoy it.
Bad ad-libs as well.
Even if you go on to something like CS, for example, or Endless Fashion, like, why are we still doing this thing of taking these already hit singles and then just trying to reformat them into this trap scene? And even at that, you go on to CS, which is Chop Suey, which is a System of Down song. That should never be on an Uzi album.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how people are enjoying it. I'm like, bro, did you guys come to a new Lil Uzi album for covers? Like, is that really what we're doing here and what we're playing on?
Absolutely,
I don't
because
think
you got
so.
the same exact thing on Endless Fashion with Nicki Minaj, which was the whole I'm blue, dabba dee, dabba die flow that they were taking and running with. Same idea with Mama, I'm Sorry, where they did their own interpolation of Hey Being Sober, and you're like, bro, you're butchering amazing tracks. And to me, it gave me that feeling that Uzi is sort of creatively bankrupt, where he's leaning on multiple remixes to put onto a studio album that was 3 years in the making. Bro, he recorded over 800 songs for this album, and these are the ones you pick.
But that's the crazy part. That's what's kind of mind-boggling to me too, is that you're going through the track list and you're just trying to be able to find certain tracks. And I do think that it's kind of a disservice to certain fans that, you know, we've waited, let's say, 3 years for an album, and you start getting remixes and covers, and you're like, well, that necessarily doesn't even make sense. Then you have tracks on here that I think were actually pretty decent, but that shouldn't have been on this album. Like, example, Werewolf with Bring Me to the Horizon.
Yep.
I mean, Bring Me the Horizon did a fantastic job on here. I believe it was Oli Sykes that ended up having one of the verses and also the hook on here. And Uzi maybe has, 30 seconds of runtime. And it's like, well, whose album is this? Like, why is this actually making it? But as I said, this was all going to go downhill once you started to figure out that there was 26 tracks. There's a difference between being able to go into an album experience and actually enjoying it, and then coming out of an album with 26 songs and taking 3 to 4 out of them. I'm sorry, that is not an album experience.
Absolutely.
That's a completely different thing. If you want to do that, drop a playlist.
But I feel like he did sort of like style this to be a mixtape, in the sense of him redoing old tracks, in terms of the length, in terms of the fact that it just feels like a loose collection that has no vision, direction, or real intention whatsoever. So I do think that he did stick true to the mixtape sort of format, which is how he sort of marketed it to some degree. But yeah, going through these tracks, even a song like The End with Baby Metal, that was absolutely atrocious. It just felt like it felt like an anime type of theme song. It didn't fit on the album whatsoever. Apart from that, you did have some decent cuts on here, like Patience with Don Toliver, that had more of this psychedelic, wavy, laid back, smooth textures. And you had Don Toliver grooving a little bit, but at the end of the day, where the fuck was the Cardi feature? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What happened to that?
The feature list, besides Travis and Don T, and even Bring Me the Horizon, they did well on this as well. Like, it's kind of useless, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. Something like Zoom, for example. I like Zoom. I think that was really cool. I'm happy that ended up making the album, because that was something that the fans wanted to see for a long time. So shout out to Uzi for including Zoom. But yeah, I mean, no.
Yeah, guys.
It's gonna be an interesting weekend. I think it's gonna be fun to go back through this, see what I don't like, see what I do like, and try to come up with a review for you guys. Because I'm being completely honest right now, I am not enjoying it after first listen. Maybe you guys are, but this is just not for me.
Absolutely.
And even at that, like, we have been invested into Uzi's career since 2016. We have been there since, well, even since before that, like 2015.
Yeah, and we're huge fans of the Perfect Love tape, of Love is Rage 2. Like, this is an artist that's talented, that's put together great bodies of work. And now I think, it might be too early to say, but it feels like it's his worst album. It feels like it's his most low effort release. And it's just underwhelming, man. Like, I hope that
I wouldn't say it's low. The curation level on this album is so poor that regardless of the energetic performances or even the production highlights, because I do think that's a strength of the album. I do like certain productions on here. Example, like a Crush 'Em or a Suicide Doors or Flooded the Face, excuse me. And I'm going to be going more through that in our review for the production. The curation level was so low that you have this 95% below track list, and it kind of takes you completely by storm, bro, where you're at track 20. You're like, what am I listening to at this point?
Oh, it was tough to get through. Like, it was such a drag in terms of pacing. One of the most poorly paced albums I've ever listened to, in my opinion. It was just way too long. But listen, guys, that's how we're feeling right now. We're going to come back to you guys with another video to give you guys our official review on the Pink Tape. As Ant mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you guys do want to check out our first reaction to the Pink Tape, you guys can access that through the Patreon. Link available in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon. Peace.